I can understand like how some women may feel unsafe with men in the restroom. Men, when I say men, I mean men.
And this is exactly the problem with trans in the bathrooms, is a person like this who wants to take over the conversation for some reason, when really they shouldn't even be a part of the conversation. The topic is,
it is a safety concern for trans women to share a female restroom.
so you're not even a trans woman. You're trans non-binary. You're a man that has made some fashion choices. That's what you are. Let's call a spade a spade. You have no dog in the fight. You're neither a biological female or a trans woman. The trans men shouldn't even really be chiming in on this one because we're talking about women for this particular topic. We can say women is an umbrella that will cover trans women as well as biological women, but we're talking about women and female. You are neither a woman nor a female. You are transgender only by the most loose definition of what trans actually is. So really, you should keep your mouth shut.
Being a non-binary person that sometimes has the choice to either go into a men's restroom looking like this.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Now, Blaire is giving big...
She doesn't even go here.
...energy. And that's completely what she should be doing.
Looking like this. You can look at me.
Well, that's the problem, is not everybody wants to look at you. Sometimes we get tired of people like you making the LGBT community look like it's something that it's not. And if you watch the full debate, you'll see that this person has a lot of problems that have nothing to do with trans. And I don't really even know why they're in this debate, other than just a person that starved for attention, feels like nobody paid attention to them before they decided to become a trans person, and that's what they stake their identity on. So you're basically an uneventful man and then thought you were going to become a fabulous trans person, and it's not what the brochure told you, because you probably jumped on the train a little bit too late, because a lot of people are over playing these games with you guys, and you are going to be the first that people are like, yeah, we're not doing that with you anymore.
Looking like this.
It's just interesting. I thought this was a trans debate. That's what I
don't
thought.
even.
Non-binary
That's what I
people,
thought.
non-binary
I
people
will
are part of the
follow
trans
trans
umbrella.
umbrella.
No, they don't.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe you could educate yourself a little bit on that.
The nerve and the audacity of this person that's wearing a hat that looks like an unrolled condom, trying to tell an actual trans woman, Blaire White, that maybe she could
Educate yourself a little bit on that.
Maybe you should educate yourself on what it is you are and stop looking to the internet for validation. How about we do that? Is that too much to ask?
I think I
And
could
maybe
educate
then you would figure out,
I think I could educate you,
what
right?
the reality is
I'm
and what
sure
trans
there's
actually means.
What the reality is and what trans actually means. This dude is gonna tell us what the reality and what trans actually... No, you're what's making trans confusing, not only for what you would call cisgender people, but also for other trans people. You're everything that's wrong with the trans community right now. You really are the problem that they're discussing in this video and on this topic. You're what's messing it up.
Non-binary Jubilee episode.
Wow,
Well, because it's not a debate about who is really trans and who is not.
Of course it's not a debate about who is really trans and who is really not. Because if it were, you'd be in the really not category. So you don't want it to be that 100%. And that's why you're reminding everybody that that's not what it's about. Because really, you shouldn't even be there. The only reason that you're there is because you want to be on TV.
We're talking about restrooms. As a trans non-binary person, when I go into a place that only has men's and women's restrooms, and I'm dressed like this, my choice to go into the men's restroom at that point puts me in danger.
That's exactly right. Your choice to go into the men's bathroom. Actual females have no choice but to go into the women's bathroom because that's where they're actually going to be the most safe. So if you want to play dress up and pretend to be brave, then actually be brave in moments like this when your bravery will matter.
6 years ago, when I've transitioned almost 8 years ago, but 6 years ago, it was never an issue for me to use the women's room. I felt uncomfortable back then. I don't pass. I know I don't pass, so that's a me problem. And I'm not gonna turn my fear of being attacked in the men's room into a woman's problem. It's still a me problem, so I need to work on myself. And
no, this person I actually feel bad for. She is a trans woman that is on the conservative side in this particular panel, and she actually says,
6 years ago, I used to use the women's room. Now I don't, because women have spoke out. They've come out and said, we're not comfortable.
I feel bad for her because I do feel like if it weren't for the bad actors that are pretending to be trans, she would be able to do things the way that she needs to, the way that she would like to. And she even talks about how back in the day, women used to always tell her,
Girl, you need to be in our bathroom. And I was like,
And I think that them not pointing out that she is really the kind of person that suffers the consequences when it comes to the trans side, I think that's something that they all missed that they should have addressed. And I'm not coming down on anybody, but I am saying that I think that's a huge thing they missed, is because it's trans women like her that suffer these consequences. And I feel that she's sincere. And I also really respect her for saying,
there's too many self-ID'd people out there just taking advantage. And I choose to use the men's room to protect them.
I'll go to the men's bathroom because I don't want to make women uncomfortable.
The idea that passability is you need to work on your transition. A lot of folks, especially in our community, have no access to finances, resources, jobs, to even get their foot in the door to get access to hormones. So you're putting all of these barriers just for them to be able to go to the restroom, which is a natural thing that we all have to do. So what do I need to do? Piss outside?
Yeah, if you're a dude in a dress that's pretending to be something that you're not, you deal with that on your own. Don't try to make that seem like that's everybody else's problems and your rights are being violated.
The problem is our community has really eroded any barriers to actually being trans, in the sense of your average cross-dresser can identify as a trans woman.
But then it's not a trans woman.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way. I feel that way as well. I agree with you wholeheartedly. However, with the state of the political correctness within the trans community, you can't really say that.
And that's exactly true. Even though they try to debate it and they try to make it seem like Blaire is just pulling this out of thin air, it is true that there is no barrier to being trans anymore. A person just says that they're trans and then everybody's supposed to respect it and treat them like whatever it is that's going on in their head. And the rest of the world isn't going for it. Mainstream society isn't going for it. You can't force people to do something that they're just not going to do.
I actually do agree with you, Blaire, 100%.
take mine back.
Wow.
That's one of those things. Yeah, I told you. I'm
Let's
really
go.
like that.
Oh my God.
And the reason why I say that is because sometimes when we self-identify, some people can take advantage of that. And that is something, unfortunately, that we cannot control. But we have to combat it with facts, with research.
Facts and research. Okay, well, facts are male is male and female is female. So anybody can be anything that they want in their head. But why don't you try going to the bathroom that actually coincides with what you were born? Because if that's facts, I think we can scratch the research. I think the research should go as far as you looking down your pants or up your skirt or whichever direction you have to look at to find the affected area, and you be honest with yourself about which bathroom you really belong in. If we're doing facts, that's as far as the research needs to go.
And with the information that is presented in front of us,
And yes, it is in front of us in all cases.
it seems like we're the ones that's teaching everybody else because we live in a predominant cis world. We're teaching them about us. And I just really think we cannot afford to be intellectually dishonest about our experiences as trans.
You should have stopped it. We can't afford to be intellectually dishonest. You didn't even have to add the as trans. As people, as human beings, we can't afford to be intellectually dishonest. That's as far as that sentence needed to go. And you're right. So, which is it? Are you male or female? What are you when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of it? The meat and potatoes of it? The fruits and... All right. The fruits and nuts. Nobody even says the fruits and nuts of it. Okay, can I not have fun? Can I live, please? What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Just gonna ask, as always, that you like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to comment just to help me out on the algorithm and you don't know what to comment, just put a knife, because you know that they are definitely gonna come for my neck on this one. And you also know that I don't care. This one is probably gonna be done in a couple of parts because it's a really long video. If you watch the whole debate, it was an hour and change. I will do a couple more videos about this because I think they do discuss some things that are very important. on. There's also a part where the black trans woman by the name of Blossom at a point tells Blaire White something like, you should never interrupt a black trans woman or something like that. And I do want to talk about that. So I'll put that video out tomorrow. Anyway, there was trans liberals versus trans conservatives. And to be honest, I thought it really showcased how bad the trans liberals are at actually making their points when they can't fall back on political correctness and they aren't dealing with people that are just willing to go with them because society right now tells us that the politically correct thing to do is as soon as somebody identifies as trans, suddenly you can't argue with them, you can't question their thinking at all. You just have to accept that that's now everybody's truth, which isn't always the case.
This is where y'all's privilege come in.
Anytime somebody tries to throw somebody else's privilege in their face, that is a clear sign that the person that's throwing that really has lost their argument, because that's all they can do is blame something like privilege rather than saying, this is exactly where you're wrong, or this is where I think you're missing the point. And when you ask why we're having this debate and why we should consider women's feelings over trans people's feelings,
You seem to be looking at through the lens of always trans being the priority. I'm looking at through the lens of women being the priority here. There's plenty of situations.
Why? I just want to know
Because
why.
it's-
well, that's because it's a female bathroom. So that's technically their bathroom. And when you're talking about the women's bathroom in general, the trick to being able to use the women's bathroom is to look like a woman. If you look like a woman, and you don't have to be the most passable, but if you reasonably look like a woman, if you look like you're trying, and I do mean really trying to look like a woman, there's a good chance nobody's going to give you a problem. This has never been a thing until we started having transgender, which was a person identifying as anything they wanted to, and then we're all supposed to just be like, okay, well then I guess you're a woman. No, I guess you're a woman. You either are trying to be a woman, or you are a woman, or you stay out of the women's bathroom. It's as simple as that. It's not really that hard of a debate, and I don't know why it takes this much back and forth to figure out something so simple. Women have never given a problem to trans women using bathrooms. It only was when we started getting these boys that were saying that they were trans just so that they could feel special that suddenly this became a thing, because then that allowed men that didn't have good intentions to be able to use the women's bathroom too, and then that led to situations like the situation they talk about in this video, where they mentioned that there was a man in the women's bathroom that a woman snapped a picture of that was, let's say, excited. Do we not see how this all works against actual trans women? And the reason that non-binary, if you're non-binary, meaning you don't care about being male or female, you don't subscribe to either gender, let's say that's really a thing. Let's say that's really what you are. Okay, so it doesn't bother you to be either gender, but for some reason you choose to go into the bathroom of the gender that it's going to make more uncomfortable. If you really don't care about gender, and if you really identify as neither, then why don't you just go to the one that makes it easier for the other people that are in the bathroom, instead of being selfish and only thinking about you and what it is you want?
If you're a decent human being, you do what causes the least disturbance.
You notice that trans men, or people that were born female and now identify as male, they're not trying to overtake the men's bathroom, and that's because the men's bathroom can be a very scary place. So why is it that trans women who are men that identify as women, or trans non-binary, feel so comfortable going in the women's bathroom? Oh yeah, that's right, because you can overpower women, which is exactly why women feel unsafe when trans non-binary choose to use the women's bathroom. That's right, you choose to do that. You may not choose whatever's going on in your head. You may really feel non-binary, but the way that you conduct yourself in the world is definitely your choice. So if you're going to be brave, be brave. Don't only be brave in June when it's Pride Month and you're around other like-minded people. When it comes time to go into the men's bathroom because you're a man choosing to wear a dress or put a hat on that looks like an unrolled condom and call yourself non-binary, use the men's bathroom. Let me see you be brave then. That's bravery. Not going into the women's bathroom where you know that physically it's just not an issue for you.
We have to have these important conversations between cis women and trans women.
I mean, I
and I'm
think-
just gonna say, and I'm not gonna just say cis women, I'm gonna say women, biological women. I wanna make it inclusive of everyone.
Okay, if we have to have these conversations, conversations, then why is it the liberals are always getting so triggered and unable to have the conversation? If we have to have these conversations, which I agree, these conversations, as uncomfortable as they may be for some people, do have to happen. But if these conversations are so important, then why can't you keep your composure and listen even when you're talking to other trans people? If you can't handle debating other trans people without getting completely unwrapped by it, you're really not ready to have this conversation with straight society. Anyway, that's it for this particular segment. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.